6 months have passed since Jack and Lily Sullivan vanished without a trace from their quiet home in Nova Scotia, Canada. And now, a new interview has reignited speculation, not just among investigators, but among thousands of viewers who have followed this case closely since day one. Because what their stepfather, Daniel Martell, said on camera recently doesn't sound like the words of a man desperate for answers. It sounds, some would say, like a man desperate to deflect and keep the truth. In today's video, I'm going to show you something that many people might have missed when this interview first aired. A set of details and reactions that could completely change how you see Daniel Martell's role in this entire story. If you've been following the disappearance of Jack and Lily Sullivan, then you already know how strange the timeline has always been. But after listening to this new interview carefully, something stands out. Something that might make you question everything you thought you knew about that Friday morning. Before we dive in, I want to make this very clear. Daniel Martell has not been charged with any crime, and this video doesn't make accusations. Everything we discuss here is based on public statements, interviews, and what's been observed or speculated by others who are watching this case unfold. Still, there's no denying that something feels off, and I want to hear from you. What do you think after hearing this? Let's get into it. 6 months after the disappearance, Daniel Martell went on record saying he was continuing to cooperate with police, that he was still searching for answers, and that cadaver dogs had recently been brought to search his property. When he described the moment those dogs arrived, he said something that immediately caught the public's attention. He said, "I came home and the dogs were already on scene. They were there for about an hour before I got there. I didn't know the exact day when the arrival was going to happen, but at the end of the day, everything's ruled out there. I hope the speculation turns elsewhere."
Exact day when the arrival was going to happen. But at the end of the day, everything's ruled out there, and I hope this speculation, turns elsewhere.
At first, that might sound like a man relieved that the search turned up nothing, but to a lot of people who have been watching this case closely, that sentence, "I hope this speculation turns elsewhere," didn't sound like relief. It sounded like deflection. Because when 2 young children are still missing, most parents would be begging for the search to continue, not for the attention to move on. And that's the first red flag that caught my attention, and as a detective making daily research in this case and ensuring the truth is found, we look into every statement, silence, and even body language. And this I want many viewers online following this case to see with me today, so you won't be left in the dark. Let me ask you something. If your kids were missing and investigators brought dogs to your property, how would you feel? Wouldn't you be standing right there praying they find something, anything that could bring answers? Daniel, on the other hand, seemed confident that the dogs wouldn't find a single clue. Now, confidence like that can mean a few different things. It could mean innocence, or it could mean certainty. And when someone is certain about what won't be found, that raises questions about what they already know. Just like me, that's exactly what one legal analyst noticed when reviewing Daniel's past statements. He pointed out how Daniel has always spoken with absolute certainty about who isn't responsible. In one of his earlier interviews, Daniel said, "I didn't do anything. I know Malaya didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything." Those are 3 people on the property. That's an unusually confident statement, especially from someone who claimed to be half asleep during the disappearance. How could he know who didn't do anything if he wasn't awake and didn't see what happened? The implication, of course, is that he might know more than he's admitting, allegedly. And that's not just my observation. Many viewers online have echoed that same question. How can someone be that sure about what didn't happen if they don't even know what did? If Daniel's version of events is correct, and he truly has no idea what happened that night, then you'd expect him to be nervous when the cadaver dogs arrived. You'd expect him to wonder what they might uncover. Instead, he seemed unfazed, even dismissive. Now, here's where things take a turn. The cadaver dogs, which were brought from British Columbia, searched about 40 kilometers of land. They combed through woods, trails, even areas where a pink blanket had been found earlier in the investigation. After 3 days, police confirmed the dogs didn't find any human remains. For Daniel, that might have seemed like good news, but for investigators and for people following the case, it only deepened the mystery. Because if the children truly wandered off on their own, as the family story has sometimes suggested, then the dogs should have found at least something in the nearby area. No traces, no scent, no remains, nothing. And that, according to analysts, actually creates more questions for Daniel Martell. How far could two small children have gone in that terrain before succumbing to the harsh Nova Scotia weather? How could they simply vanish in a place that's been searched over and over again with advanced technology and trained dogs? If there's nothing to be found in those woods, could it mean they were never there to begin with? These are the questions many people are asking, and I want to know what you think. Drop a comment below if you believe something about this timeline doesn't add up. Now, let's move to the part of Daniel's interview that truly shocked people who followed this case closely.
Leading up to the cadaver dog search.
Is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, like, what if they do find something?
No, because I didn't do anything. I know Malaya didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything. Those are 3 people on the property.
Down property where the siblings lived. They also sniffed the woods where a pink blanket was previously found and a nearby pipeline and intersecting trails. He wouldn't confirm whether people were questioned during the latest search, but Martell tells CBC one of the RCMP dog handlers had tough questions for him about the day before the children disappeared.
He said your Thursday and all the way leading into Friday morning, there's not enough detail. And I said to him that Thursday was just an ordinary day until I woke up on Friday morning. And that's when, like, life changed. There was nothing like life changing on Thursday. It was a normal day. So, therefore, there was nothing detailed that needed to be remembered that day until Friday morning.
So he was mentioning something along the lines of something happened Thursday night, and your story isn't matching up?
Yeah, well, not just matching, it didn't have enough detail for him, personally. And then that's when I asked him, do you know anything on the case? And he said, not really. I've seen you on the news once. And that kind of alarmed me, or, shocking, because you're having somebody that's trying to get you to admit to something and they don't know any details. So therefore, my Thursday didn't have any details. Your knowledge of the case didn't have any details. So you shouldn't try to force something on me without knowing any of the background.
When police questioned him about his timeline, particularly the Thursday before the disappearance, Daniel said that day was just an ordinary day. He told the interviewer, Thursday was normal, nothing life-changing. There was nothing detailed that needed to be remembered. But according to reports, that wasn't accurate. Because Thursday wasn't normal, Lily was apparently sick that day and stayed home from school, breaking the family's routine. If you've ever studied statement analysis, you know what that means. Minimizing or downplaying an unusual day can sometimes be a form of distancing, a subconscious way of avoiding uncomfortable details. So when Daniel describes that day as ordinary, it stands out. An officer reportedly told him that his story didn't have enough detail. That officer even suggested that something might have happened on Thursday night. When Daniel heard that, he didn't seem worried about what police knew. He seemed offended that they were pressing him. He said, "It was shocking because you're having somebody that's trying to get you to admit to something and they don't know any details." Think about that response for a second. If your kids were missing and someone accused you of harming them, most people would break down or demand to help find proof of what really happened. But Daniel's focus, once again, was on himself, on his reputation, on whether police knew the details. And the strangest part, he kept repeating how little detail there was about that Thursday, as if to convince himself it was forgettable. That's not the kind of mindset you'd expect from a parent of missing children. Now, at this point in the interview, police made something clear. They're not closing this case. They're still investigating. They've said publicly that they'll keep working it until they find answers. That's good news for everyone who's been hoping for closure. But it's what Daniel said next that left many viewers speechless. He said it should have been case closed from the very start. With the amount of resources and searchers deployed, people should have just opened their eyes and looked elsewhere. Let that sink in for a moment. He wasn't talking about the pain of not knowing. He wasn't asking for more searches or help from the public. He was telling everyone to stop looking at him. That's not what grieving parents usually say. And when you line that up with his earlier words, I hope speculation turns elsewhere, the pattern becomes clear. Every time Daniel Martell speaks publicly, his top priority seems to be shifting attention away from himself. Allegedly, this is what many true crime followers and online investigators are noticing. When someone is truly desperate to find their children, their words revolve around the children. When someone's desperate to clear suspicion, their words revolve around themselves. So ask yourself, which one does Daniel sound like? Now, I want to pause here for a second and speak to everyone who's been following this story from the start. You've seen every update, every headline, every inconsistency in the statements that have come out. Do you believe Daniel Martell truly doesn't know what happened to Jack and Lily? Or do you think, as some online have suggested, that he might be holding back something crucial? Remember, this is all still under investigation, and every person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But there's a reason people keep coming back to his interviews, not because of what he admits, but because of what he avoids. In one moment, he talks about kids going back to school, about how sad it is that classmates are missing their friends. It was heartfelt, yes, but the strange part was that his sympathy was directed at the other children, not his own. He said, "It's heartbreaking for them. My daughter doesn't understand now, but one day she will. She knows her dad spoke up for Jack and Lily." That line confused many people online, because the way he worded it made it sound like Jack and Lily were other people's children, not his. He referred to his biological daughters as his daughters, but didn't use that same language for Lily and Jack. Was that just a slip of the tongue? Or a revealing choice of words? Statement analysts often say that how someone refers to the victims tells you how they feel about them subconsciously. And Daniel's phrasing, that emotional distance, has been one of the most talked about moments in this case. It could mean nothing, but it could also mean more than he realizes. Let's look at the bigger picture now. 6 months of searching, multiple police departments involved, cadaver dogs, public appeals, and still no sign of Jack or Lily. The investigation has stretched across provinces. Detectives have rechecked evidence, followed tips, and spoken with dozens of people connected to the family. But with each passing week, one thing keeps resurfacing: Daniel Martell's words. Because while the evidence might be scarce, his interviews are not. And each time he speaks, the public's perception of him shifts slightly more. Whether fair or not, people tend to judge not just on what's said, but on how it's said. Tone, word choice, emotion, or lack of it. And in this case, it's not just what Daniel claims, it's what he chooses not to say. He doesn't speculate about strangers. He doesn't plead for the kidnappers to return the kids safely. He doesn't beg the public for information or urge the community to stay alert. Instead, his focus is consistently on shutting down speculation, on ending conversations, not starting them. And that's what makes his demeanor so difficult for people to understand. Could it be that he's just tired of being under suspicion? Maybe. Could it be that he's emotionally shut down from trauma? Also possible. But could it also be, allegedly, that he knows more than he's letting on? That's what many can't ignore. Now, I want to hear from you. If you've been following this case, what's your gut feeling after hearing these words? Do you think Daniel's defensiveness is just frustration from being accused? Or do you think it's something deeper, a telltale sign that there's more to his story? Drop your thoughts below, because this case isn't just about what's on paper. It's about what people notice, what they feel, and what doesn't sit right. Every comment, every theory keeps attention on Jack and Lily, and that's what matters most. Because somewhere, someone knows what happened to them. And even after all these months, that truth is still out there waiting to be found. Until then, one thing's for sure, Daniel Martell's interviews will continue to be analyzed, dissected, and debated as long as there are people still searching for justice for those two missing children. And, as always, I'll keep watching this case and updating you as soon as new information emerges. If you found this breakdown insightful, or if you believe more people should see this story, then help me spread it. Hit that like button, share this video with someone following the case, and don't forget to subscribe to Agent Tim, because here, every mystery gets the attention it deserves. We'll keep following the evidence, separating fact from rumor, and shining light where others stay silent. This is Agent Tim. Stay curious, stay safe, and, as always, stay true.